Guest is Rashad Richey, popular, powerful radio talk show host.
But you're too kind.
But well, that's true, man. You come out of nowhere. You started, you haven't only been doing this several years, a few years, right?
Really, I think I've only been full-time in radio about 2 years.
And you skyrocketed. I mean,
by the grace of God, thank
people know you, like you, respect you, debate you fiercely, but they also enjoy your repartee. What kind of audience is Atlanta? Who do you talk to out there?
I think I talk to everybody. It's very interesting. If you listen to the callers on my show, you will hear from millennials, you will hear from the very engaged, politically engaged. You will also hear from people who say, I don't even vote. They won't even vote, but they listen to that program and they will vigorously debate me on issues of policy and politics and government. And you also have conservatives that listen to the show.
Yeah, really?
Oh, absolutely. White conservatives call in often.
White conservatives?
White conservatives. I never forget.
To a black radio
To a black radio, and they are constant. I have male and female white conservatives that are loyal listeners to the program, and it's quite interesting because I usually give them a beat down to the third power verbally, and they call back and they listen. But I think they are learning, but at the same time trying to challenge me on some of the more pronounced political elements of our society.
So for them, you're the ear and the eye to the black community.
Yeah,
and that happens.
Yeah, but we've done this before. A lot of black people listen to Rush Limbaugh just to hear what white people thought.
That's true.
And so I think whites are doing the same with my program. I never forget, I got a call I had so many conservatives call on the show, and I never knew how combative they would or wouldn't be, and I didn't care. I enjoyed the back and forth. There was a time when this white guy called the program, and we would have some white people who would call the program and say idiotic things because they are redneck bigots, and they'll say the N-word or something like that, and we have to drop the call and continue. But there was this one white guy that called, and my producer said to me, he said, Rashad, get ready because I think this is going to be a crazy one. But I do not screen any calls. I let everybody through. And as I hit the button, there's skepticism in my voice because I'm really ready to fight. Right. I'm ready to engage. And this guy said that he was a professor at Compton College, white guy. And then he says, we listen to you every day. I have my class listen to you every day. Wow. And he says, say hey class. And his entire class said, hello Rashad. And you could hear the whole class. And it really taught me how diverse the listening audience is becoming, which I think is good because it's true conversation. It's not formal. Some days I have bad days and I tell people my patience is not what it was yesterday. So don't call with the mess today.
How do you get up every day for this? I mean, you wake up, you got to be on.
Every day.
Not only just reading and researching, but you got to perform.
Even when you have personal challenges.
It's not just a conversation, it's a show.
Right, even when you have personal challenges. In the beginning of my program, I say you're going to be informed, empowered, and entertained. I tell people those are the three things you will be when you listen to my show. Informed, empowered, and entertained. I say that at the beginning of my monologue every single show. And I try to deliver that because really that's life.
That's true.
Life is about being informed, empowered, and entertained. That's balance.
That's true.
And I want to create that balance when people listen to the program.
Mind, body, and spirit.
There you go. I want to create that balance for people when they listen to the show. Yes, I'm rough and I'm raw and I'm in your face, but I'm also sensitive and kind and loving and compassionate. I'm what humanity is because I'm not one gear. I'm not set to one speed. Nobody is. There are some radio hosts I respect tremendously, but they are set to one speed when they are on air. And that's good for some people. For me, that's not my style and I can't pull that off.
You kind of swayed, moved by the subject matter and the person you're dealing with?
Yes, yes. Call-ins are a huge part of that show, a huge part. And before I even finish with my opening monologue, and I don't even give out my number until 30 minutes into the show, my phone lines are already to capacity from people who remember the number from the day before or whenever. And so there are people jumping to not only express their opinions, but to also have a conversation, open a dialogue about things that are important to them.
The Atlanta listening audience that you speak to, you said a wide range.
Yeah.
Intelligent, politically inclined, or you don't know what you're getting, a mixed bag of folks?
Yeah, you get a mixed bag of callers, but I think if you actually would rate who listens to the show when I go out in the community and I see people out and about, these are very smart people. Even the ones who are not politically inclined are still very smart. They know why they're not politically engaged. And even though I disagree when people say, well, I won't vote, I disagree with that. But that is your right also to not exercise that particular vocation. And so it's good to have the conversations. And when I have these conversations in that public forum called talk radio, it allows other people to hear both sides of one debate. And so I realize when I'm discussing these things or arguing that I'm not simply doing this for the sake of the caller or that conversation, but for the thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are listening to that one conversation and trying to still make their minds up.
Before we go to our next break, you've been here since you're 10 years old in Atlanta.
Yes.
This town has grown exponentially.
Yes.
What do you think, your thoughts on Atlanta today as compared to perhaps when you were a youngster?
Atlanta is moving fast. If you go anywhere in Atlanta, you see a lot of buildup, right? Everybody's building, you got companies and corporations. That's a great thing, but at the same time, these companies, they put a lot of money in local politics, where there are some individuals who are elected right now, they're more beholden to the corporation or the corporate dollars than the community. And that's because of the transition of the city of Atlanta.
And Atlanta's destined to double in size.
Yes.
In what, next 10, 20 years at least?
Right.
In fact, they're planning it.
They're planning it now, and that's why they're building up rather than out.
This is the Georgia Power Show. I'm Maynard Eaton, and we're talking with Rashad Richey, the realest man in talk radio. We'll be right back. Maynard Eaton here. This is the Georgia Power Show. I'm with Rashad Richey, popular, potent, provocative radio talk show host. Politics.
All right.
You came from politics. That's where you are a political strategist.
Right.
What do you see happening as we move down the road toward this 2017 mayoral election?
There's a fork in the road. There's a fork in the road. People are upset because of what they consider to be failed leadership. And there are some who feel as if the city of Atlanta and those who run the city of Atlanta, they are too beholden to the corporations, to the big dollar donors, rather than to community, rather than to those who are disenfranchised. Right. So there's a fork in the road as far as leadership. But there are some pluses, actually, to the corporations being involved in the city, such as employment, such as property values. All of these things have pros and cons. At the end of the day, you have to balance these corporate interests with community interests. It can't be all this way or all that way, because you won't have this thriving Atlanta city that you have if it's simply one way or the other.
Talk to Councilman Kwanzaa Hall today.
Mm-hmm.
As you well know, he's going to run for mayor.
Right.
And he said the challenge, if whoever becomes the next mayor, is how do you blend this two?
Correct.
How do you take 04th Ward and the same District 2 where your radio station is probably has more Fortune 500 companies than any major city in the South.
The richest area. Right.
But on the other hand, you see the encroachment or gentrification of the old 4th Ward that was once one of the poorest areas in the country. How do you blend and balance those two, I think, is the key to whoever wins the election. And will they be able to do that? Are we moving toward a city almost too rich for many of us to live in?
Well, I think there's a rubber band effect with cities all the time.
I like that.
They come out, they come back in, then they find a healthy medium that really works for everybody. That's why it's important that the person who becomes mayor next, that they have an extreme high level of leadership because they're going to have to be able to go in a room, talk to those same CEOs, and get them to understand what the community's been trying to say. And then they're going to have to take that same speech to the community and get the community to understand what the CEOs have been trying to say. And they have to compromise somewhere. That takes leadership. And so when you say, how can it be done? With much difficulty. That's how it can be done.
What's your thoughts, what's your grade on Kasim Reed's almost 8 years in office?
Yeah, it's been a mixed bag for me. I think Mayor Reed has done some things tremendously well. And there are some things policy-wise I completely disagree with him on, and I've been vocal and open about that. So it's been a mixed bag to me. But he has definitely been a person who is decisive. If nothing else, he's been decisive. But I think some of those decisions, they have undercut what made or makes Atlanta great. And it's really the people who are not rich, and the people who may have been disenfranchised, but Atlanta used to be that city of a second chance.
Sure did.
And it's almost as if those opportunities for a second chance in Atlanta, such as the homeless shelters and some of the programs, those opportunities are drying up.
Sure.
I think part of what makes Atlanta great is that second chance element that it has.
The city too busy to hate, right?
Right,
so
exactly.
It's supposed to be the motto and our mantra.
Right.
You were in politics when the mayor ran with Kasim Reed. Did you support him when he?
I did, absolutely, and would support him again. Would support him again. As a matter of fact, when he ran for mayor the first time, and he was state senator,
Right.
Kasim Reed,
And a good one. To me, that was his heyday. I thought he was a great state senator.
Yeah, he was great. He was great. Like, once again, he was decisive. He was a good leader. And I was actually the field director for Aaron Watson.
Okay.
And so I ran all of the field operations for Aaron Watson, City Council, Post 2 at large. Mary Norwood, Councilwoman Mary Norwood, vacated that seat to run for mayor as well.
Right.
I think, and still believe to this day, that he was a remarkable candidate, and I still would support him.
As you well know, at least he's told me that he wants to sit on. He said, "I want to leave office, make a lot of money, and then be in politics for the rest of my life." Do you see a pathway for him to have a statewide position here or a national position? Kasim Reed?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. I've seen so many things in politics, I don't rule anything out. I mean, we're living in the era of Donald Trump.
That's true.
Okay? So you don't rule anything out. He has made a solid name for himself with some of the major players in the state of Georgia. And because of his relationship with Nathan Deal, some Republicans really like the guy too. So there's some crossover appeal. Does that translate into places like Chattooga, Georgia? I doubt it.
Yeah, exactly. And if I don't know if Andy Young and some others could have went statewide, but that was a while ago. I just wonder whether they're really going to.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Man with a name Kasim. I just don't see the
and
Georgia, Atlanta, yes.
Yeah.
Georgia, I just have.
Maybe people can get over that, but there was a time in Georgia politics where if you just want Atlanta, Macon, and a few counties down south and a couple of counties up north, you can win the whole state because of the voting patterns, the population density, and that's simply no longer the case. So you have to be able to appeal to rural Georgia in order to transition into a statewide position, something that has been done. Michael Thurman did it with ease, but when he tried to run against Johnny Isaacson,
he got slammed up.
Yeah, couldn't do it.
Speaking of the mayors, who do you see out there now, brother? I mean, there's a plethora of names out here, and I'm sure you've been counseled or talked to all of them.
Right.
It seems like it's all be like Republican presidential field, like 16, 17 folks.
It's going to be a lot of people. You have some really good people, and the positive out of that, from the people I've spoken with, and I won't go into details about those conversations because they were in confidence. But the positive of having very well qualified people all running at the same time is that statistically you have a better chance at getting very qualified leaders into the right place. Because even those that don't win become part of that team in some way. Because they are engaged and involved, and now they have a following, and the people are still looking at them for
something else. I mean, because there's some young cats thinking about running. I'm going, why are you thinking about running now maybe wait another cycle. But a guy like Michael Sterling, who I think has a bright future.
Right.
But is this a time to run for mayor? But if he runs, like you said, his name will be out there.
It'll be out there.
I've
I've been knowing Michael a long time. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. And you're talking about a hard worker, somebody who understands government, politics.
Smart guy too.
Very smart. Very smart. And sometimes running is strategic. I tell people all the time, this is chess, not checkers. So when a Democrat runs against a Republican, knowing they really can't beat this Republican, they can show the weaknesses in that Republican.
Right.
If they get 48%, then you can see, well, the weakness is really 2% plus 1.
Right.
So let's exploit that 2% now. But you would never know that statistical data unless somebody was the sacrificial lamb to run against someone who was unbeatable, quote unquote.
I know you've talked about this. It's the elephant in the room, politically speaking. Have we seen our last black mayor? Or is there one more destined or possible to be there?
I don't think so. I don't think we've seen our last black mayor. I think we're going to get a black mayor in our next election.
You do?
I absolutely do. And the reason why is because of the tensions. The tensions right now, from police brutality to the criminal justice system, education reform, all of these issues filter down in many people's minds to race. And to have a majority African-American city elect a white mayor in this time, I simply do not think it's going to happen. Even with Mary Norwood, when she went into the runoff,
Right.
you know how many people, and I know you know this, there were so many people who voted for Mary Norwood the first time.
First time, right.
And then when they realized that this woman could actually win the mayorship, they then came back and voted for Kasim Reed in the runoff.
He came from nowhere.
Right.
Kasim,
He was at 4% for the longest and transitioned up.
There are those who suspect, though, and again, we're just talking politics here, that with many black candidates, they're going to knock each other off, and somebody like a gay candidate or a white businessman with plenty of money, Peter Anders, could sneak in and win.
Well,
but either way, I guess it's going to be a runoff.
It's going to be a runoff, and that's the great thing about not having a plurality.
Yeah.
It's a majority vote. So no matter what happens, somebody has to get 50% plus 1 of the vote. And so a runoff, absolutely.
As a radio talk show host, are you kind of just smiling about the possibilities of what this campaign is going to show up?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's got to be fodder for next year.
It is, and it's great conversation, but it also allows some of the elements that would not normally be part of the narrative to get back in.
But it also will show a lot about our city too.
Correct.
That's what I like about
the exposure.
And the exposure, because we talk about issues and they get highlighted or uncovered.
Absolutely.
We're talking to Rashad Richey, the baddest man in radio, and we're talking about Atlanta. And coming back to the Georgia Power Show, we're talking about his past and where he's going. Hello again. I'm Maynard Eaton, and this is the Georgia Power Show, and my guest is one of the best there is in what he does. Radio talk show host Rashad Richey.
Thank you, sir.
But you come from a mighty long way, haven't you? I mean, you gangbanging to look. That's hard to fathom.
By the grace of God, it was tough. I went from home to home, hood to hood, and I don't say anything to besmirch my parents, so I don't get into that.
Right.
But I was living a life void of a lot of parental guidance for a period of time. And those streets are very attractive. They're very attractive. And that's why I go now and speak to young people who are part of the plight I used to be. I'm actually a deprogrammer for gang members throughout the metropolitan area. Yes,
really?
I deprogram gang members. And this has been such a unique calling on my life. I never thought I would ever transition into this. I could not stay away from it. I couldn't shy away from it. I've never been muffled about it. I've always been very outspoken about my run-ins for law enforcement, about my knucklehead days, all of that.
What triggered the difference? What turned you around?
It was very interesting. I was 17 years old At 17, I caught a felony. And at 17, in the state of Georgia, you're prosecuted as an adult. And I never forget, I went to real jail. No more juvenile.
That's right.
You go to real jail. And as I'm processed in, it takes about 3 or 4 days to make it from downstairs to a middle floor and then your regular cell. Once I got in there, my cellmate was a guy that I knew from the same neighborhood I was from. And he had changed his entire life inside of this jail cell. He was a born-again Christian. He talked completely different. His nickname was Psycho. And when I got there, I was just so happy to see somebody that I knew, okay? That I said, Psycho, and I'm all celebrating. And he was like, don't call me that. Rashad, don't call me that.
I'm done with that.
Done with that. He told me, I don't want to say his real name on there, but he said his real name, which I never knew his real name before. And I saw this guy through example, go to the church calls, go to Bible study calls at the jail. He would read his Bible religiously, no pun intended. He would pray as soon as he woke up in the morning for breakfast, and he would always pray before he went to sleep at night. And I remember telling him that he's going to go right back to who he was as soon as he gets out of this jail.
Right.
And he responded back to me, I'm in here for manslaughter. He was in there for manslaughter. He said, I'm not getting out anytime soon.
This is my life.
Yeah, and I said, why in the world they put me next to him? That was my first thought. But I think it was divine intervention.
Yeah.
So I started to read the Bible for the first time in my natural life. I started to go to some of the church calls. And then there was a prayer circle that some of the other Christian men would have right before you turn into bed at night. Right. So they'll go call the prayer circle. I went to the prayer circle a couple of times. And as I'm reading the Gospels, and this is how ignorant I was of Scripture. As I'm reading the Gospels, I said to my cellmate, I said, man, this is the same story all over again. He said, yeah, it's called the Synoptic Gospel. I didn't know. I was ignorant to that. And as I'm reading and reading and reading, I realized that no matter what I had ever done in my life, that Jesus paid that price. And I accepted Jesus in my heart.
You can see it.
Yeah. Tears me up every time because it was so real. And I just yelled and I cried and tears just flew out of me. And I was saved in that jail cell. And even though, right there. And I wasn't perfect after that. But there are some things that I refused to do. When I got out of jail, I was released on Christmas Eve. I had a bond that nobody would pay because I was being so reckless in the streets. Nobody wanted to take that opportunity on me. Nobody wanted to put up their money to get me out. I had not shown myself worthy. On Christmas Eve, I got a call from the guard saying, Richie, pack it up. Sometimes the guards will play with you. And nobody believed. And they said, leave that kid alone. He said, no, I'm serious. Somebody posted his bond. It was Christmas Eve.
Wow, what a gift.
One of my foster moms actually put her house up on Christmas Eve and got me out of jail.
Wow.
I became a youth pastor a few months later, and the rest is really history.
You still involved in the church?
Still involved in
the
ministry.
pulpit becoming your radio show?
Well, you know, it is to some degree. There's a lot of responsibility and accountability to that radio program and the listenership. But I still minister. I still speak in churches often. I still give my testimony anywhere I can. And I'm still very active when it comes to supporting other ministries. And so I feel that my pulpit is not in a sanctuary as much as it is in community. And when I was released on Christmas Eve, that case was dealt with by way of first offender status. So it allowed me to wipe away the felony. And to this day, I'm felony free. And you don't realize how much of a blessing that is for a black man in the United States of America. And a lot of the opportunities that I've had now, they've come because there's no felony on my record. And so I benefited from that first offender status. And that's why today I work with the same DA's office that prosecuted me when I was 17 years old in their anti-recidivism court.
So it allowed you to begin life anew.
Absolutely.
And you've helped change and touch some other lives through your working with gang members yourself.
Absolutely, I'm thankful for that. I've seen some lives transition, and there are some brothers who now they work with me almost every day.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, if you want to change the world, do what Jesus did. Find a few people and mentor them. That's it. When you boil down what Jesus really did, he found 12 men and he decided to mentor these 12 men. He poured the best of him inside of them, and they went out and transitioned and transformed the world. And so if you really want to change the world, find people that you can pour your best self into and watch their world change and the world around them change.
Where do you go from here, young man? What's tomorrow for you?
You know,
Major radio, television? I mean, you're not going to be here long.
well, you know, I will say this. I don't think in those terms, and that's as honest as I can put it. I've never thought in those terms, here's a 10-year goal, 5-year goal. I try to do the absolute best with the tools, the resources, and the platform I currently have. I try to do the best show I can do, be the best advocate I can be the best mentor I can be. And obviously I'm human and I make mistakes. But as far as I'm concerned, the destination is not as important as the journey.
Will that still be media, perhaps, or politics an option for you in the future as well?
As long as I'm affecting dynamic change, it really doesn't matter to me. As long as there's change taking place on a positive level, with a person like me who wants to see true change because I experience true change, I simply want to find that medium so that I can help others make that same change.
And that's what you're doing now through your various speaking engagements and your show.
We try.
Change is hard to articulate, it's hard to see, but you do think change is possible for many folks here in Atlanta today?
I think change is possible for everyone. I think the people who may not believe that change is possible for other people, the only reason why they think that is because they have never truly experienced change themselves. When you've truly experienced change yourself, you realize that potential rests inside of every man and woman on the face of the planet.
We're certainly glad you changed, Rashad Richey.
Yeah, a whole lot of people are.
And we're glad you're changing us.
Thank you, sir.
Through your various ministries, but also, man, your powerful voice.
Thank you.
You're a brother.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, man.
Rashad Richey, and this has been the Georgia Power Show. Thank you for joining us.